Welcome everybody to Music Marketing Week 28, I think is what I put in the title. I hope that's what it is. Today we're going to be talking about I made a nice little list. Everyone likes a list, right? So I made a list of the 10 things that I wish I knew when I was starting out as an indie musician. And I think this is still a lesson that a lot of people, even if you've been releasing music for years, there's still a lot of lessons in here. I know there are also a lot of ongoing lessons in here, reminders that I have to keep telling myself. So today, if you're live on Twitch, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to, we'll bounce off each other a lot more because it's not going to be so much of me like teaching as much as it is kind of a conversation. And then at the end, I would love for you to also add in your own wisdom, anything that I didn't touch on, or ask any questions about whatever, and we can go over that. So welcome in everybody. Listen to more of my music. I have nothing but praise once more. Thank you, Toby. I saw your comment on YouTube. It was really sweet. Okay, so these are in no particular order, so they might bounce around a little bit between the topics. I forgot that I meant to filter them into some sort of progression that made sense, but I didn't because I forgot. So it's probably going to jump around a little bit, but my first point on 10 things I wish I knew when I was starting out was don't force friendships or connections, meaning, and I did kind of talk about this last week, but meaning when I was first starting out, I was just trying to cling on to anyone. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it kind of came from a point of me not knowing where to start, not having a community, not knowing what to do. But I would kind of, cling on to this musician or that musician that I was maybe in a playlist with and like try to build a rapport and like force it, but they weren't responding. They didn't care, whatever. And just feeling kind of lost and desperate, or, maybe kind of looking at it more from a transactional point of view, like a follow-unfollow type of thing. I did a lot of follow-unfollow back in like 2016, 2017, when I was like first making Twitter and stuff. Because I was like, oh, the more people that I have following me, the more likely that they are to listen to my music. And that's just not true, because the people that you get through those types of growth, they're not ever going to look at you. They're literally following you just because you followed them. They're not following you because they liked your music or anything else. So doesn't really matter if you have like 10,000 of those followers, because maybe 2 will care, versus if you go about that growth slower and get 100 followers in the same time span, but maybe 30 of those people are following you for you. That's a big difference. So, this is just something and it can kill your engagement. It can be a spiral, because if social media sees that your engagement is super low, then it will also show you even less. So one thing I did actually, after I had done a ton of follow-unfollow, was I forcefully removed followers from my Instagram. I literally removed like 300 followers and took myself from like 1,500 to 1,200. This was a while ago. And then it took me a really long time to get back up to get up to 2,000 the first time. But it definitely felt more real and valuable. Some of them are also after that sweet seat. We'll talk about that later too. But posting, I think I have it as a point here. I really should have reviewed these again before I started talking about it today. I think I have it as a point here, but just really quickly, like posting sexy pictures of yourself or whatever is great. But again, those followers who come in, they don't care about their music. They care about you, what you look like in your body, and their self-gratification. So there's a lot of musicians out there with like 30,000 real followers on like Instagram, but their music doesn't necessarily get that many listens because the fans don't care. So just know that you can post whatever you want, of course, enjoy it, but don't think that getting a ton of followers or doing this specific thing is what's going to make you blow up. Because what's really going to make you blow up is focusing on building your platform, building your music, all of those things. Even if you're like, oh my God, I haven't gained an Instagram follower in a month. It's fine. They will come when you make that good shit next time. When artists do that to me, I listen to one song. If I like it, I'll follow back. If not, I just ignore it. Oh, see, that's a good way to do it. But for me now, I also try to like curate my feed a little bit more. Not curate it, and by curate, I mean like actually who I'm following, not what I post. I really don't care. But I try a little bit more to follow people who I know that I'm going to enjoy, instead of just feeling obligated like, oh, they're a musician or they're an LGBT musician or whatever. I would rather like wait for them to kind of like say hi or whatever because I just don't have time in case the person is fake. And if the person is genuine, then they'll probably like interact with me more, and I'll get the feeling that they're genuine, and then I'll follow them back because I want to be friends, that kind of thing. Yeah, if they don't have any mutual followers, yeah. So that's another thing. I mean, Tina, who is like a super fan, is giving some great insight here for people, because people know that she is a super fan, and people know that she listens to and supports so many musicians. So I'm sure she actually probably has a lot of people kind of like sucking up to her, trying to get in her good graces. Yeah, Tina herself said that doesn't work unless she likes your music. So you can try to connect with certain people, but it really is just better spent time working on yourself. And I actually wanted to read something that Guess messaged me, because I posted a lot of these things on social media, and Guess responded about this social media stuff. And he was saying, from my experience, if you focus purely on social media, you just get caught in the cycle of doing things to please the algorithm or reaching for the lowest common denominator type of content. But if you focus on your art and improving your craft, refining your skills and taste levels now gives me like PTSD from Canada's Drag Race. Also, I'm sweating so much. And create high quality work, whether that be music, photo shoots, video shoots, and just use socials as a way to share what you're actually putting your energy into behind the scenes, you grow much faster, and I would also say much more valuably. Long story short, if you focus purely on chasing followers or purely on social media, you're just chasing followers. But if you focus purely on creating truly exceptional work, then the followers come as a result without having to try so hard to like rein them in. That's more than I do. Same, Joey. Tina takes the time. On Twitter, I block them if their account is new. All my DMs are music related. Oh my gosh, Tina. I'm sorry. That's the price of fame. It's the price of fame, Tina. Social media becomes a rat race, but it's about building a relationship with people. Guest coming through with Shakespeare. I know, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit more too, like how to kind of make connections with people. But that's just kind of step one, is if you think numbers matter, they don't. Whoever told you numbers matter is wrong. It's all about making friends and making good art, period. It really is. Unless sometimes smaller artists are like, impressed if like, oh my God, that person with 10,000 followers followed me. I used to be that way too. And then I'd follow them and I'd notice that they unfollowed me later. And I was like, oh, I guess they didn't actually like me. They just wanted to use me. So also don't be fooled by other people. You're allowed to not follow someone back, is what I'm trying to say. So here's point number 2. And I think this is the biggest kind of, oh wait, what'd you say, Toby? I'm the kind of person that don't care about anything but the music and the person behind the music. If I don't like the music or the person, I won't follow them on Twitter or Instagram. Yeah, same as me. And I think most people are like that. The other people who are also doing follow unfollow or are like following you back just because they have the exact same mindset. They just want more followers. So they don't care about you. You're just a number to them. But if you're making relationships, you don't have to be best friends with everybody. But if you're making, casual, friendly relationships with everyone, that's the way to go. I like it casual. So number 2, again, some of these are going to be really obvious, but surprisingly, a lot of people don't act on them. So number 2, supporting other people is genuinely the best way to get support back to you. So the ways that I did this before starting Quarantine and before starting music marketing was starting my sequence playlist. I've had this playlist for like 3 years. Over 3 years, maybe 4 years. And it's taken 4 years to get to 215 followers. It has taken quite a long time. But at this point, as it eventually grew and grew and grew, it also grew me and made people see me as someone who is, genuinely trying to discover new music, share new music, someone who's not just doing it for myself. And it has introduced me to a lot of people. Some of those people might initially, it might also be partially that they're reaching out to follow me or be friends with me because they want to get on the playlist, which I don't blame them. I would probably do that too, but they do it in a smart way. So I just think if you do not have a playlist where you are featuring other artists, that's the easiest way to get more people to learn about you, find you, see you on social media. Again, at first, people probably won't follow you back. They won't pay that much attention. You might not get followers. I still only get maybe 1 follower a week on this thing, which pans out. If it's been 4 years, that's 208 weeks and it has 215 followers. So it's a very slow growth, but just doing that type of thing is a great start. This ain't Instagram best friend race. It's not. And way too slack and giving me crap. Oh, give me more, Nyar. Give me more. So playlists are great. Another thing I started doing is a lot of times people will do covers of big artists. That's great. It's content for your fans. But something even better is doing a cover of an artist that's maybe a little bit bigger than you or a friend of you. They don't have to be bigger than you, but doing a cover of a song you like that's more indie, because that artist is pretty much guaranteed to share you. Number two, if they hadn't noticed you before, they probably will then and might follow you, or you might at least just start a conversation there. That's happened with me and multiple artists that I've covered. And the other thing is, it's just a lot of people, especially for artists at our level, you know, the under 10K Spotify listener, under 10K followers between all social media kind of group, our fans are following us because they want to support indie music, and they are also looking for more indie music. So doing more covers of like indie artists is great, because I feel like it's a little bit more guaranteed versus trying to do a cover of a big artist, putting on YouTube or whatever. Yeah, you have potential. You could be shared by the big artist. You could just kind of pop off with the algorithm on YouTube or whatever. But I find that doing it with smaller artists, and again, kind of keeping it around our general level or a little bit higher, is the way to go there to reach new people. And lastly, if you have any other expertise, which again, we kind of talked about this last week, but if you have any other expertise or things that you can do to uplift artists, do it. I'm not saying you have to do like tons of stuff and stress yourself out like I do, because although it definitely helps me grow faster, it also stresses me out. So it's all a balance. Do what you can do. But, you know, for example, I started music marketing, the series, because I wanted to be helpful to people. And in everything I do, there is always, of course, a hint of, okay, well, this is going to bring more spotlight back onto me. That's not the main focus or the main motivation, but it's always a bonus that I'm thinking about. If none of this stuff would help me at all, I probably wouldn't do it. Is that bad to say? I don't think so. I think it's honest. But again, that's not my main motivation. I do genuinely love helping people, and I think it's important that what you do also shows that. But think about like what expertise you have. Like maybe you can teach people how to do branding. Maybe you can just, even if it's not making video content, just saying like, hey, I do this single art, reaching out to people, being like, I do single art. Would you want me to do your single art? Would you want me to do this? Whatever. And again, we'll get into how to start those conversations. But just, again, showing whatever skill you have, sharing that, showing that, and starting to build connections using it is really important. Yes. Isn't it smart to first do music on local, hometown, city, village festivals, then go international? Yeah, but in a digital world, I mean, I wouldn't even worry about honestly doing live performances. I've only done 2 live performances in my life, like in person, and there were experience for doing more live performances, but they didn't really do anything for me. I lost money on one, and I got like $20 on the second one. So it's not that worth it until you get big. So I don't even do live shows. I don't care about live shows unless they're paid, like guaranteed. I find your level statements so true. The smaller person is the more humble they tend to be, which sometimes leads to either a friendship or a collab or you getting shared, which are all great things. Yes. Helping people just feels good on period, and helping yourself also feels good. Yeah, that's true. I also am just of the mindset. I always have, like, my philosophy is like every good action comes from a certain selfishness, and I don't think that's a bad thing. The real money at live shows is the merch booty. Also the booty, the booth and the booty. Yeah, selling merch and selling CDs, those are the ways that you're gonna get more money from that stuff. So doing live shows is great, especially if you really want to be like a live performer. I don't necessarily want to be a live tour going internationally and doing that stuff with my music. Like, it'd be cool here and there, but I'm too shy. It's stressful. I don't like it. So I'm not focusing on that. An eye patch. I mean, I was just thinking about buying that merch booty, a treasure chest of merch. Number 3. You've got to disagree on live shows. I've acquired a lot of listeners from doing tours. See, I haven't done a tour. I've just done a couple hometown shows in New York City, which are not hometown shows. And for me, who I didn't have like necessarily a listener base, it's basically like begging my friends to come pay money to see me live. We have a good time, but I haven't gotten a single follower from it. So maybe I just suck. Um, maybe I just suck. I think tours are a little different. It also, obviously, here's what I'm saying. If you're getting paid for something, and maybe neither of you were paid for these things, but I mean, like, if you're opening for artists, if you're getting paid for doing certain things or touring with bigger names, that's of course very, very, that helps a lot. But if you're just gigging in your own city over and over and over and over and over, I don't know. For me, it's not worth the trouble. It's not worth the trouble of begging people to come, rehearsing, maybe paying a band, whatever, all of that stuff. But if you're tied to a bigger thing, then yes, I would say that's more worth it. It definitely has to be the right opportunity. I'm not just gonna take regular gigs anymore. I'm not. Hi Kent, welcome in. Hi. Only 100 of songs written but never putting it here? No, Toby, no. There's so many musicians that never release music, or so many musicians like myself who have tons of music but release it so slow. Okay, number 3, you all. Number 3, looking like a snack. Thank you. I'm sweating my pussy off. Literally, it's like dribbling down my left thigh. Number 3, press is really cool. It's great to have press on your resume, but the thing that press does most is impress your current fans and impress other press. Press nowadays does not bring that many, if any, people to come follow you. So you can't go into the mindset worrying about that happening or feeling like if you get these certain press stories that you're going to blow up, because it's just not true. What you need to do, instead of stressing about the biggest names or the biggest whatever, is finding the people that care about the communities that you identify with. Now, that could just be genre communities, or it could be like LGBT community. But finding these, and I've said this before many times too, but finding the niche press is going to help you out a lot more than getting the big names in terms of getting followers. And the more of those things you get and the more followers you get, then the more engagement and stuff you'll get, and the more likely that these bigger places are going to cover you and stuff. I've had artists in Ear Milk and Paper and Huffington Post and tons of places, and their Spotify listeners don't go up, their followers don't go up. But it's great to just get some extra legitimacy for your resume, for your bios, all of that stuff. So don't think that, first of all, don't think that if you're getting overlooked for press, that it's the biggest deal in the world, because it's not. And also, you will, whatever song you just released is not your last song. You will release more. You can always try with those bigger places, yes, but I'm just saying, don't stress about feeling overlooked. Don't stress about feeling like you have to get a certain thing to be popular, or even think that if I get Billboard Pride, I'm going to be a star. I'm going to get money. If I get regular Billboard, if I get Rolling Stone, any of those things, it's like you might get a couple hundred listeners on Spotify. You might get 5 follows from that, which again, to me, girl, that's a lot. But I'm just saying that's very different from before, when if you're covered by Consequence of Sound, you're covered by Pitchfork, you're covered by Rolling Stone, all of a sudden you're on the late night shows, you're doing like major press tours, you're like opening up on festivals and stuff like that. It's just not the case anymore. So you got to be careful with your time. Just don't stress yourself out about certain things, and just know that those journalists will come to you in due time. You know, after starting Quarantine, and now especially after releasing my recent EP called Sweet Nothings, out everywhere now, exclamation EP in the chat to stream it. Journalists have started to approach me to cover me, and that's been really cool, because that's something that I've been like dreaming about since I started making music. It's just like, you know, one day opening social media and seeing myself included in a story that I didn't pitch, or seeing a DM from someone saying like, hey, I want to include you in this, you know, write up. Can you send me some pictures or whatever? Or seeing an email from someone like, hey, I want to interview you. So just know that that does happen. It will eventually happen. As long as you keep at it, it will eventually happen. And as long as you follow the tips in the other 28 weeks of music marketing, it will happen. Yeah, and like I said, find the tastemakers who care, because there are a lot of people who are willing to cover music that maybe isn't as polished. That's basically how I got any and all of my press, until Happily Ever After, was me just hoping and praying and pitching around, trying to find someone who would cover me, and finding some people and then building real relationships with those people, and supporting them back as well, because they're They're the people that not only I want to support for supporting me, but also I want to support them so they can support all the people like me who are just trying to find any type of anything in this industry. It's very hard. Peter said, I agree with that. RE Press. Press does help with bookings. That's a good point. Press definitely does help with bookings. I'll say that. I will agree. And pressed it, but it doesn't equal listeners. Very true. Live shows need a different shit. NYC is a tough one to crack. I mean, that's true too, especially if you're in like a big city. It might be a little different. It also probably depends on the venue. You know, if you're performing at Rockwood in New York City, you might actually get more fans because it's kind of a venue where people just walk in, there's no cover, they just like make you buy a drink. Although now also it's very different. Live shows don't really exist in most of the world. So we'll get to live streaming later. But yeah. Agreed on press. Personally, I find musicians during nowadays is very difficult. You either have to do some very weird song or remake very old one. That is kind of a way to get people to notice you. But again, it's kind of like what we were saying with social media, where that doesn't always equal good followers. It's people who might just want to hear a version of it, or they might be looking for laughing at the meme of it, but they're just laughing at it. They're not necessarily enjoying it. They're not whatever. So that's the thing with trying to do, you know, like music without doing it for the art. If you're not doing it for the art, you might get more followers, but then when you want to do serious music, they're not going to care. So it's better to just bite the bullet, know that it's going to be slow, and just do what you actually want to do from the start. And making dumb music is also fun and amazing. So I don't want to say don't do that. I just mean don't do that in order to chase success. Don't do any one thing in order to chase success. Same of Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean. Must be the worst part I've ever heard of. Abby, you've heard of me. That's true. That's true, Nyar. I want to play my games. Oh, Nyar. Oh, yeah. Nyar is a creator. Peter said, I agree with that, RE Press. I've had coverage in a national newspaper in South Africa, and the activity on Twitter was wild, but it did very little for engagement with music. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it can still get you followers, and maybe they don't engage with the music right away, but, you know, they stick around for those next releases. And again, it's worth it because, like Corey was saying too, a very good point. Press definitely helps with bookings, and it can help with maybe like a more industry type of person seeing your music and you know, being interested in you. But that doesn't happen as much anymore either. But it can still happen. Press helps you get, and it does help you get blue checks. Also true. Also true. Although I've applied for blue checks many times to no avail. Maybe I just don't have enough followers or something, or engagement or whatever, because I have a pretty good press resume at this point. Okay, go to the local X Factor. I mean, that's another thing too. But a lot of people, I mean, I know people who have been on those singing shows, and most of them also don't, you know, they'll get a lot of social media followers. But again, it doesn't translate to the music. You can't do anything. You can't do any of those things and expect it to translate to the music. So it's better to just focus on making the music. I mean, do those things for fun. But again, if any of these other pathways to try to go viral, they will not serve your music. They just won't. When I had a press team, there you go. They might have also like had a connection or known someone at Instagram. Because I know a lot of people do, not a lot of people, but certain like companies and people know more of those people and can work their magic, which I don't know those people. And I do my own press, so I haven't had a company. When starting with press, try to approach your hometown paper. If it's small, they'll likely cover you because it's a local interest story. It's true. My first few press were like friends that I knew who basically like did me favors to cover it. I mean, they didn't do me favors. They did like it, but I think they had to fight, you know, maybe their editor a little more to cover it because it wasn't as polished. But other than that, when I first released my EP, two of my bigger pieces of coverage were my hometown newspaper and my college newspaper. And I was just like, alumni, this person, and I hit him up, and it was cool. And it was nice to be in like a print newspaper. That was really cool too. There's something extra sexy about print. I have them over here somewhere hiding, but I kept them with me. I'm gonna frame them. But those are from like 2 years ago. Yeah, it really doesn't. Again, those competitions can make you popular in certain ways, but not in the way that you necessarily want. And the X Factor, I mean, the contracts are stinky, yeah. Okay, let's continue. Oh, I guess I did actually talk about this one already. This is number 4, but I was saying adding value into the world. What is your expertise? So that's what I was mentioning earlier with, like, my expertise is in marketing. So sharing that knowledge with people is another way for me to meet new people, have some shareable content, but also help other people who are just as frustrated as me help overcome some of those hurdles faster than I did. I also feel like there was something here that I was trying to talk about, but I forgot. If anyone remembers or has something that I missed, remind me, or I trailed off, because I get very distracted by chat, which is hard when, you know, I'm trying to have a conversation with chat as well. But yeah, that type of thing. If you do art, like talking about, you know, doing single art for people. If you make physical art, maybe partnering up with someone or something to like release a physical merch thing with them, like how I'm doing these origami cards. Like, I don't know, maybe I could have reached out to another artist that I really like and talked about like doing a collab thing, or like we would have, you know, sold it together and done the profits. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. But at the very least, you can make a playlist on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you use. At the very least, you can do that. But if you want to go above and beyond, you can, you know, show your expertise in other ways, like I said. Okay, here's another thing. Number 5. Spotify is cool, but plays can be faked and buying streams is never worth it. So it's better to invest your time into promoting Bandcamp and Patreon for like the main consumption for your fans, because they're going to listen on Spotify no matter what. People are going to listen on Spotify no matter what. At least the people who are already interested in you, I should say. So it's better to kind of put like Patreon and Bandcamp in front of them like this, to give them other ways to support you that are more guaranteed and a lot more valuable. If someone listens to my music 200 times in a month, that is huge. That's amazing. They are like the biggest super fan ever. Tina, I love you. Honestly, she probably listens more than 200 times a month. But it equals out. If you're looking at it from a time and energy and money standpoint, that's like so much time that Tina is spending listening to this music, even if she enjoys it. Just thinking about, you know, how much time it takes, period. I'm taking enjoyment out of that factor. I'm taking enjoyment out of that just to say, like, it takes so much time. Like, you could stream someone for 24 hours straight and then maybe get $2. So if you really want to support someone and you have the means to do it, I'm not saying you're not a real fan if you don't support them in other places, because we only have a certain amount of money and we also support a lot of different artists here. But if there's someone that you really, really like, it's better to support them on Bandcamp and Patreon, and they'll get more money. So as artists, it's better for us to try to think of ways, okay, how can we incentivize them to come to Patreon? What can we do to incentivize them to buy on Bandcamp or do these other things where, you know, if someone bought my EP on Bandcamp for $5, that's the equivalent of someone streaming my music for 60 hours. Did I say 5 hours? $5. So basically 60 hours of streaming or 1 second of purchasing for $5. We get so stuck on Spotify numbers because they're kind of how we measure each other, because they're a public metric. We can't measure each other as much by Bandcamp, and we're not going to get jealous of other people through Bandcamp, whatever. But to me, it doesn't make sense to buy listens on Spotify. Number one, because it costs money that you will never make back. You're getting plays from people that either do not exist or don't care. And your numbers will go up, but for what? Because then you'll have all these plays on Spotify and no social media engagement. And people can look at that. Journalists know when plays are faked. Everyone can tell. Well, not everyone, but industry people, everyone in the industry, most people, let's not even generalize a little bit. Most people in the industry can clock if you are buying followers, streams, whatever. If you're buying any of that stuff, they can tell. So it's just not worth it. It's not worth it, and I don't recommend it. Even if shit is going so slow, don't buy streams. You're going to spend maybe $30 to get on a playlist, and maybe you'll make $1 back. So now, in addition to paying however much money it was to make your song, you're paying even more to get fake streams. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay? Don't do it. Lurking. Janet's combing my hair. Ooh, come on, Janet. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, are you redoing more of the blonde? Wait, have I not seen it? Maybe I haven't. When did you do that? I don't remember. Focusing on music is most important when being a musician, because if you don't, then what's the point of doing music? Yeah, and focusing on creating your own music. Would love for you to do one of the, I actually have, Corey. It's maybe like episode 20. I don't know. It's one of the later ones on Patreon. It has a guest as well who's like a Patreon pro. But it's definitely worth it. It's taken me a long time to grow, but I also haven't spent that much time on it. And I wish I would have spent more time on it when I was starting out. I'm learning Japanese at the moment because I really want to be able to learn to sing Japanese music and understand what's being said. That's awesome. See, that's a cool way to do something that you could see as like a gimmick, but has value to it. Like one of my friends, Nick White, who just released a new song called Moon, he loves languages and he actually does some of his songs in multiple languages. Like Moon is in English and Spanish. He has 2 different versions. There was like a Bulgarian version of another song and tons of different stuff. So it's cool to do that. And that can also introduce you to whatever. So, and that can be a skill too that you think about. Like we have to think of skills as not just like, I don't know, whatever people think of skills. I feel like people think in very rigid ways about what skills are and how they can use them in music. Or in content creation or whatever. But there's a lot of other skills that you can use to like introduce yourself to other people or spice up your music or spice up your content or whatever. Buying streams also fucks up your engagement saves and you won't get discovered by actual fans. Yeah, it's true. I will say there are ways to buy playlists correctly, but it is not worth your time spent researching that or doing it because overall it's just messy and it's still very risky and it can get you like fucked forever by Spotify's algorithm and you'll basically just be like hidden forever. So it'll take a really long time to like recover from that. So just don't do it. Don't do it. I will also say, this is number 5, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I have no idea. Where are we? Oh, I skipped one, I think. No, I didn't. Oh, no, I did. I skipped a lot. But I'll continue with this one and then I'll go back. So this is going to be a little controversial, but quality is not always better than quantity. No, I'm not saying don't try when you don't release, I'm not saying don't try when you release music. Do your best work. But sometimes it's better to just release stuff that, you know, has whatever mistakes or shortcomings that there are because, you know, especially if you're doing your own music, you're not going to be a pro right out the gate. And there's no point to wait until you are a pro to start releasing stuff. No one is going to listen to your music and think that you're total trash and never listen to you again. That is an irrational fear. I know that it is a fear, but it is irrational and knock it out of your head because it doesn't deserve to take up any space in your brain. Releasing more music, and I'm also not saying releasing music every week, but I'm just saying for me, I wish that I would have released stuff sooner and been less perfectionist about it. And that's actually what I did. Despite Sweet Nothing's taking so long, in the end, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna be a perfectionist. We're just gonna finish it. We're just gonna send it out. We're gonna do it. It's gonna do great. And it did better than my first EP. It got the same amount of streams my first EP did in like years in a month. Basically in 1 month, and did as good as my other EP did in 2 years. And that's just because I had also been growing and releasing more. But it's good to just release stuff, get it out there, especially if you haven't released anything yet. If it's your first song, it's good to just release something and get it out of the way. The thing is, you can always take that music down later. If you feel, you know, later on, maybe you have money to start working with a professional, or you just get really good and you want to take down stuff that you feel like doesn't serve you. A lot of artists do that. There's a lot of artists that you think their debut single just came out and they have been releasing music for the last 10 years or the last 5 years or even the last 2 years, but then they deleted that shit. So like, I'm going to go in another direction. So don't think that everybody's debut single is the best thing. If you ever want to call it your debut single, you just delete the other stuff and you call it your debut. Music is lies. Music is all lies. Press is lies. Everything is lies. So don't get stuck on feeling like, oh, my debut needs to be perfect. It's better to get it out, start getting some listeners, start building up your brand and all of that stuff. And then if you want to like redo it all later and do it more officially, you can hide that stuff, or you can put it on Soundcloud as like demos only. And you can just say like, this is my official debut. The other stuff were all demos. And the press will eat that up. They'll be fine with it. They won't care. Also, saying something is your debut really doesn't make that big of a deal anyway. So I think it's better to just release stuff. Don't worry about making mistakes. Release it. Do your best. And you will be surprised at how much support you get. Spotify favors a regular releaser. That's true. You want to be consistent, but also don't feel like you have to release stuff on a certain schedule. I used to feel like I had to release stuff on a certain schedule, and then I got really stressed out when that didn't pan out. I used to feel like I had to post on social media in a certain schedule and would get frustrated if it doesn't pan out. Now, it's true that the algorithms on everything will give more favor to regular contributors. But is it really that much more? It could be the difference between getting a playlist or not after you've released, a few singles. But most people I know are not getting playlists yet. The only playlist we're getting is Cosmic Playlist, which is great, but those are separate. We're kind of pitching those to Channy Nicholas on our own. Yeah, I wouldn't stress too much about that type of thing. And Jay Gregory said, I've heard this too and have a monthly release schedule now for the next 6 months. Well, yeah, I hope that you get some good stuff, and I hope you get some playlistings. I know a lot of us have been releasing music regularly. It could also be different because, I don't want to play the queer card, but I'm just going to say there is no conclusive evidence for this, but maybe it has to do with, they can tell that our music is LGBT or that we're LGBT artists. So they're like, well, they'll either fit on Out Now or New Music Friday, depending on the type of gay they are. I'm just saying gay as an umbrella term, depending on how queer they look. So we might also just have less options. This advice might, that consistency might be better for other people. But at the same time, it's like their playlists are very limited. They curate very limited. There's literally millions of artists. So I don't necessarily know if they're extra discriminatory. Peter said, last year I was releasing a project every month for the year. It forced me to not be such a perfectionist. And as Corey says, Spotify favors regular releases. Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is I know I struggle with being a perfectionist. It's not a good thing. It's not a healthy thing. It's not a helpful thing. It's basically chasing something that doesn't exist. So just imagine me like visualizing the flying spaghetti monster and literally chasing that. It's the same thing, but in a different way. Like that would be a waste of time and I would look wild doing that. So don't do that with your music either. Just like do it. Don't chase perfectionism. Because it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be something that you could have done better. There's always going to be some sort of regret. There's always going to be somebody that doesn't cover you. There's always going to be someone that doesn't like the music. There's always going to be someone that doesn't share it. But overall, you're going to have an amazing group of support around you. All of those people are the people we tend to get focused on, the people who don't respond, and those are not the important people. If to do music, then what genre is most best to do? Whatever you want to do. Again, whatever you want to do. Every genre in music has its pros and cons in the sense of if you want to do pop or hip hop, those are the most popular genres. But then it means your music has to be more professional, your branding has to be more professional, and there's just more people making that type of music to compete. Versus if you made more like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like other genres of music. I can't think of a single one. If you made more like, I don't know, electro ambient noise music, that's, sounds like satellites talking to each other, you're probably not going to have as much commercial success, but you'll probably have a much bigger niche of people that want to follow you because there's not as many people doing that type of thing. So again, chasing anything, not worth it. Do what you want. Corey said, US and Canada New Music Friday playlists are more bark than bite. Don't stress if you're not getting added. You're literally competing with the Lady Gagas of the world. And that's the other thing too. I've seen people get added to New Music Friday. They don't get that many followers from it. But what they do get that is very nice is real streams. You do get some followers on Spotify and other social media. You do usually get approached by some industry people, and even if it's not the right time to work with them, it's a connection that is made. And a lot of times, because New Music Friday gets so many streams, you will get added onto Discover Weekly, which is literally the best playlist on Spotify. That is the playlist where people go to discover new music. That is the playlist that you will always get a ton of follows from on Spotify and social media. So getting on playlists is really just a way to get on Discover Weekly, in my mind. Otherwise, they're like, and you do get paid. I should say New Music Friday, you'll get $100, maybe. Sacrifice pasta, yes. Thing is, I don't understand the fitting thing. I put a person on my playlist no matter what they believe in or find attractive. If I find the music dope, playlist time. Amazing. Agree. Completely agree, Toby. Not everyone does, but I do. Okay, let's go back up. So we have a few more points here. This is the biggest one, and I'm going to show you. I mean, honestly, $100 is probably generous, because how many streams is that? 200,000? No. 20,000. Like 30,000. 30,000 streams is $100-ish. 20 to 30. So yeah, maybe you'd get that much on New Music Friday. Could be dope. Have a love and leave. Okay, bye, Peter. Thanks for hanging out. Hi, Jackson. We're talking about if you got New Music Friday getting paid. I barely started to get paid, but let me show you something. So one of the biggest things, and I can't say this enough. Also, remember, everyone, go see Peter's album. It's out August 7th. Also featuring Elizabeth Electra, another alumni of Quarantine. What was I going to say? And Peter, thank you so much for your donation again. What was I going to say? Okay, live streaming is everything. Like, it's the baddest bitch. Or maybe creating regular YouTube content or something. But if you have the capacity, I won't lie, it is not easy, and it is not, well, it depends on your budget. To me, it's not cheap, because you have to get a cam, you have to have a microphone if you don't already. I feel like most of us would. You might need a little bit of a decent light. Honestly, if you're a musician, live streaming might be pretty easy, because maybe all you need is a decent camera. If you already have a mic set up. But it is the thing that moved me. It's how I found community. It's how I found supporters. It's how I found more confidence in my music, because there were so many people that were like, this is really good. Because I'm used to sending my music to people who are bloggers and curators and journalists and people who, you know, they're hearing literally music from, you know, like Sophie Tucker and some of these other like major, amazing artists that maybe the mainstream hasn't fully heard of, but like they're huge. And I'm competing against them with something I did on my own after learning production for like a year. And so they're always going to be like, your music needs a lot of work. Meanwhile, if you find people who are not necessarily music critics, you're going to find a lot of fans. You're going to find a lot of crew, audience, love. You're going to find all of that. There's people out there who will be so impressed by the music that you are so self-conscious of. And live streaming has been huge for me. I'm going to show you what my stats looked like before I started live streaming, and after I started live streaming, and then what they looked like after I released Happily Ever After, before I really had any other connections to the queer music scene, how my community was able to take that new release and push my pussy up. Let me pull that up. And tied to that, I think there's something that someone said. I'll tie something that Prismetical said into this. Prismetical said, spam your friends. Send the music to your friends, your family, everyone. I come from a pretty judgmental family. My mom and dad they love everything I do. But like my cousins, my sister, they'll be more like realistic about it, which is not always easy to hear when you're starting out. But it's nice to just send the shit to your friends. Again, most people will be supportive of you. Prismetical, was saying that he just like sends it to like all of his closest group, sharing it, and that's how it starts out. Also, his music is amazing. I'm going to show you a few things. I'm also going to show you when I finally decided to do that, or not even, but when I actually asked for people to listen to me, and when I actually started asking for people to follow me and asking for that type of thing, because we can't be shy about that shit. We can't. You have to do it. You don't have to do it all the time, nonstop, but okay, let me show you this. I promise I did not buy followers. It looks like I bought followers. I promise I did not. So this is when I released my first, where is it? July 14th is the day that I released my first single. Boop, got a couple followers, whatever. And then this is where I started asking all of my friends on Instagram and Facebook Now, people that I knew, if it was someone who I didn't know that well, I didn't ask them. I wasn't spamming everybody, but over the course of like a month, I started asking people to follow me. And I went from 18 to 300 in a little over a month. And then it kind of stays pretty steady here. You can see over the course of the rest of 2018, and this is also when I released another, I did have a new release right in that time frame. I released something in April. So I think that helped as well. Cause I was like, ooh, I have a new song. Also, do you think you could help follow me? I'm trying to get to like 300 follows, because back then that's how you would get verified on Spotify. So I don't know, just pick a random thing or just be like, hey, can you follow me on Spotify? Here's like my new song. And you don't have to be like fake. You don't have to be like, oh my God, I've missed you so much. You can be real about this stuff. You can just be like, hey, I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to say hi because I released a new song, blah, blah, blah. Here it is. Here's the follow. If you want, period. And it worked. And I got a lot of follows. And that doesn't necessarily equal a ton of listeners, but it helps, again, with like release radar, all that stuff. So this was back in 2017, and I didn't start streaming until January 2018. So look at my followers here. From July until January, literally the exact same followers, if not losing one. So this goes to show that I did not know what I was doing for this whole 6 months. I didn't know how to create community. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't use social media as much either, but social media is the devil. And then I started streaming around January, and you can see it start to go up a little bit. And then I started streaming music around May. And that's when you really start to see it go up like almost one a day, right? And then I released Happily Ever After right here, February 14th. And you see it go up a lot. All of a sudden, instead of 6 months going down one follower, in like a month without asking people to follow me, I went up like 30 follows. So that's like one a day too. And that was just live streaming from where was it? Oh, and I did release a new EP around here too, but so January 305, I hadn't released any music in this span, and I gained 50 followers from live streaming, and a lot of listeners during that time. So let's look at that. Let's look at my streams or whatever. So this is when I released my first song. You can't even see it. You can't even see it. And then this is when I started asking people to follow me. And you can see a few little bumps here and there. And then here's when I started live streaming and released an EP. There's very few zeros in there anymore. There's like streams every day. And then I released Happily Ever After, and my community blew that shit up. And you can see I was permanently at this higher level. Then I was really lucky, got on Cosmic Playlists and Discover Weekly, and both of these big things, that's what those are. But even without those, I know that this level, once I released my EP, I know that it would be, maybe more like this, how you see it here. Maybe it would be higher like that. And same thing with listeners. Like you can see, this is again, that's when I released Happily Ever After. So it's really tiny here. You can't see as much in listeners because the listeners didn't go up that much, especially when it's on a big graph nowadays. Because I probably had 10 listeners here, then maybe like 30 listeners before I started live streaming, then maybe like 100 listeners when I started live streaming. And then it went up to like 1,000 and went back down to like 300 or 400 after releasing Happily Ever After. But again, live streaming like tripled my listener count. And it has helped me reach so many people that now I'm like at these big numbers. So that's just to show, I'm just trying to put the numbers to it. It's amazing. Let's see what people said. Is SoundCloud smart to use? SoundCloud is good to just start, but putting your music on Spotify is not that difficult. There are videos on it. I have videos on it. You can do it for free. If you use Level, you can release 2 songs for free to all of the major streaming platforms. And that's where people are really listening nowadays. SoundCloud's kind of dead. Putting my first song out. My dad, are you getting paid, son? Me, I just put it out. No one has listened to it yet. Not good enough. Just listen to your own music. I also did listen to a lot of my own music, trying to get it to 1,000 plays, which wasn't enough. My bro doesn't even listen to my stuff anymore. He could care less. I mean, Kevin doesn't really listen to my music. It's fine. You're not gonna, that's the other thing. Like they'll probably listen at first, your friends, but that's just a way to start, There's just a way to start. Like I remember when I released Symmetry, I was in another relationship and my boyfriend had it on repeat a couple times, like maybe 3 or 4 times, and then he probably never listened to it ever again. And that's also just kind of how it works with music, you know, like people are not listening to my first EP anymore. I mean, they are a few people, but more so because it got on, like, again, Cosmic Playlist or something. So then it got into people's new rotation. But I have a lot of songs that get like 1 stream a day or no streams a day. And they'll always be that way because they're my older stuff. But as you go on, you know, Happily Ever After and He Didn't Want Me are sometimes like 50, 100 streams in a day or more. So it's all just a process. Krugler said, yeah, you get to skip past the gatekeeping and get straight to the consumer. Yeah, it's true. Oh, wait, did I miss something? No. Okay. Skip past the gatekeeping and get straight to the consumer. Yeah, it's true. And people on Twitch in the music community are super hungry for new artists. The music community itself is super supportive. I have had many people in the community cover my music, including Krugler, cover my music, put it on, you know, their posts and stories, play it on their streams. And it's great promotion. And it's live promotion directly. It's like live collaborating sometimes too. See you in a sec, Toby. Play all my faves for my mom and one of my sisters. See, Tina's doing the networking, so we as musicians can do it too. Wilhelm said, it's always good to have many connections who you get well along with because they may share your music and then it gets more popular, etc. Yes, Wilhelm. It takes a long time and not everything you release is going to get the same reaction. Happily Ever After, naturally, is my most listened to song because it was my most shared song. And it will always be my most shared song unless I create something that's even more like spicy. That's fine. It's just how it happens. Streaming could have its own marketing weekly though too. In what way? Marketing weekly? Oh, how to do like Twitch marketing yourself on Twitch. Yeah, that's not my expertise. I get tired of Twitch. I like Twitch, but I don't know. I don't care as much about growing as other people do. I just like doing my little events here and there. I personally hate SoundCloud. Yeah, I really don't use SoundCloud anymore, but it is good if you just want to like make stuff for fun and put it out. That does work. Jackson said, my little sister just recently heard my new single and texted me, oh, this is actually really good. Wow, I've heard that one before, Jackson, but that's awesome. And I saw that it broke 1,000 plays. Congratulations. There was someone else that just broke like 1,000 or 2,000 plays. Oh, Bryce's new song is doing really well. It's amazing to see so many people who, you know, just in the last year have grown so much. And yeah, I love it. I love it. And I mean grown as in like more people knowing them too, because I mean, Jackson, you know, I'm somehow didn't get obsessed at first, but now I'm obsessed with Icarus. So it's like everyone has been making great music from the start. So it's just a matter of time of getting people into the circle and, you know, grabbing them, fishing for them. You really getting listeners is like fishing. Once you get them, you have them, but it takes a while to get them. Yes, love it, Jackson. SoundCloud is a social network. You got to use like one to see the success. Yeah, but I do think SoundCloud is kind of dying. So I don't invest in it anymore. I used to like network. I used to like everybody who liked and reposted my songs. I would, you know, message them and say thank you and follow them and all of that stuff. But Santa's Pussy is not my most streamed, but in December, maybe it will blow up. Actually killed me. Yeah. I use SoundCloud to share unreleased. Yes, the SoundCloud's only purpose for me and from the press standpoint is that's where you can like upload a track, have it be private and send it out to press. That's its best use. I do still put my uploads on there, but I don't really market them. I don't really care. Sometimes that is what bloggers share is SoundCloud links, which again is like fine because most people are not reading those blog posts anyway. And yeah, so don't feel like, oh my God, the blogger put my SoundCloud instead of my Spotify. I'm missing out on so much. Honestly, if the person does actually take the time to read it and listen and like the song, they will put it on their Spotify. I shall go now. Okay, good night, Wilhelm. Thanks for hanging out. Santa's Pussy is the one that I can't leave my head. It's a good one, but in December it will blow up. Sounds like Santa Buzzy. Yes. Big B U double T. Okay, we have a few more. We're really chatting today. I didn't expect this to take so long. I ain't complaining. I just didn't expect it. Anyone watching this on YouTube is going to be like, oh my God, this is so long and so boring. Well, it's your fault for not coming to the live version. Okay. Anyway, I don't know what point we're on. 1, 2, 3. I think we're on point 7. No, 8. Yes. Oh, actually, I'm not done with the live streaming one. But live streaming is amazing. I know I kind of rambled, but I just wanted to show you, like, viscerally with those graphs, like, the big difference that live streaming has made. Like, it's visibly there. But I was also going to say, if you're live streaming, or if you're not, but you want to create YouTube content or something, creating a platform is amazing. Like, I loved, although we had a ton of technical difficulties at first, like Tajmir Graves' Taj Radio. That's a great idea. It's like a cute little 30-minute interview that he set up where he'd play some of my music, talk about his new release, and we just like hang out. Any of those things. Dougie has been doing those like weekly interviews on Instagram. I really recommend doing stuff on somewhere where you can either live stream it on Twitch or then put it up on YouTube later, just because Instagram can have a lot of issues. Like, at least for me, my live streams are always, if I'm doing a live stream with someone else, it never works. It just doesn't work. So I would say just making content that people can consume on YouTube. I mean, you can put IGTV on YouTube, those types of things, but making stuff for YouTube or Twitch is great, and creating your own platform is great, even if it's a little bite-sized thing. Like, maybe you could create your own like New Music Friday listener thing where you take your 5 new releases, and this can be big artists or small, although again, doing this for smaller artists would be more likely to get like shares and eyes on your stuff. But if you just do like, oh, my 5 favorite new releases, it's a 10-minute video, you just play like a minute of each track and talk about why you love it or something, people are gonna eat that shit up. People are gonna eat that shit up. So don't be afraid. Everyone makes fun of podcasts because everyone has one. It's true, but they're also, everyone has one for a reason, because a lot of people listen. It's very free form. You don't have to film anything. Just think about creating something. Think about it. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Okay, point 8. Point 8. Oh wait, let me continue. Dougie is killing it. Dougie is killing it. Dougie's been doing a ton, and Tosh. Live has been kind of liberating as an artist. Suddenly creating an audience is less about music and more about having fun with everyone. Yes, agree. And same with like live streaming itself. Like, my favorite part of doing music streams is just talking to everyone. Like, I barely play any songs. I just like, we just talk about life, and it's great. And that's the other thing too. Like, live streaming, you're not automatically gonna like catapult into success and tons of followers and superstardom. I mean, look, since we've started, I haven't even gotten a single follower, but I don't care about that, because what matters more to me is connecting with the people who are already here. Again, sharing this content later, sharing it on social media, all of that stuff. So even if I'm not necessarily getting flocks of people coming in right now, it's still very much worth it.